what implications does this have for what Christianity is becoming? And in some ways to assess to what degree is what's happening inevitable given the changes that are happening in modernity. What we hope our research communicates is to sort of reveal dynamics that are true in all of our congregations to an extent, some greater, some lesser, some hidden, and things that people don't want to acknowledge. But to see that I think the character of modern religion has changed. And it's, I think one of the most important developments of the modern world is how much the individual is left to themselves. That we are responsible more and more for our own lives, that we've become separated from the structures of family, that the state imposes more and more of a burden on the individual, that the way work happens is very much the individual trying to cultivate a self that will fit into some place that will hire them. There's a surge of theory that is emphasizing individualism. And it's not individualism the way it's preached. It's not about us becoming narcissistic. It's not so much that I'm busy spending all my time only looking at myself, and trying to make myself look good. It's that in modern society today, it's incumbent upon all of us to build a biography, and build a biography that is marketable, and build a biography that's able to establish alliances and affinities for survival. That if we don't cultivate who we are, we won't be able to survive. And the fragmentation of the individual and the way in which we try to collect all those pieces together inevitably becomes a religious act. Religion is a way in which human beings attempt to cultivate an individual that is consistent, that has a cogency to it, that has a narrative or a through line. And so to the extent that churches or religious orientations only make sense of the self when you're at church, it becomes incomplete. And there are too many people who believe that their religious selves only matter when they're in the walls of the church, and it doesn't take them outside of those walls. And so the manner of individualism has made us into religious individuals in which we have to figure out how does religiosity make sense to us. And in making ourselves a people that try to make sense of who we are before God, we are forced to come to our own conclusions about what that means. And that really means a renegotiation of what authority I accept as a spiritual authority, what narratives will make sense for me as it makes sense in relation to my own life, and what communities I establish with other people on the basis of how much they force me to conform to their image of what they think is appropriate. What I find in the church today is a greater allowance for individual experience and individual discretion. There's a greater sense that we can't just tell people what to do, what to believe, where to go. More of us as spiritual leaders have had to accommodate that individuals have to legitimate whatever spiritual authority comes, and that they have to be willing to be a part of the process of whatever we decide to do as a community. And so if we can characterize the emerging church movement as a place where radical religious freedom is practiced, I think that we could also see more conventional Christian churches as places that have had to accommodate for the expansion of individual choice. So religion in America specifically has always been voluntary. Nobody can make me go to church. I go to places because this is where I want to go. And in that sense, religion in America has always had to work with what it means to be an individual who would voluntarily participate in this community. I think that the emerging church takes that to the furthest extent possible, and creates a place that we call pluralist congregations. Congregations that not only welcome diversity, but in some ways actually agitate for that diversity.